Hello and welcome, heroes, to the Crit Academy. I am your host, Justin.
I'm your co-host, Austin.
I'm your co-host, Dan.
We hope to inspire you with creative content that you can bring with you on your next adventure.
We want to thank you guys for joining us today here at Crit Academy Studios, where everything's made up and your roles don't matter. Yep, that's right. Your roles are like a Candlekeep without a book.
Cam needs that.
Wouldn't be much of a library without books.
Nope.
I'm really excited.
Scrolls, maybe? I guess you can.
You could do you could do
you could do a
scrolls.
scroll.
I think you
You
could
could do scrolls. Be interesting.
For sure.
Play tablets.
Before we get into today's show, I really would like to talk about our upcoming Kickstarter, our Capes and Crooks playtest. You can actually join the stream bi-weekly on Fridays. This is our upcoming Kickstarter project. It's going to be very big. We just calculated the page estimation for the book, and if we're even remotely close, it's going to be like 350 to 400 pages. So it's a big project, so I'm super excited. If this is something you might be interested in, you can head on over to critacademy.com/capesandcrooks, and you can not only get notified when our Kickstarter go live, you can also join our Facebook group, which I've been posting powers and stuff to get feedback. I just recently posted some artwork to get kind of the community's involved in helping me build some NPCs and some heroes and stuff. And of course you can watch our playtest, which has been a lot of fun. So hopefully
Very enjoyable.
Yeah, I've had a blast. I think they've really enjoyed themselves. At least they say they have. But it's super exciting. It's every other Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So like I said, I just put the link in the chat, so please take a minute to click on over and check some of our stuff out. We are at 999 YouTube subscribers. So if you're in the chat right now or you're listening to this and you haven't followed us on YouTube, please go to youtube.com/c/critacademy and hit that sub button and push us over the 1,000 mark. I'd be super excited if I'm over that mark by the end of the show. So
That'd be amazing.
That'll do it for a little bit of the housekeeping. As always, we like to start off our show by giving away fat loot, compliments of our generous sponsors.
Absolutely, and our RPG Fat Loot giveaway today is the Chronographer's Curse by Richard Hayward. Now, in the town of East Haven, a group of adventurers is tasked on a routine mission to resupply an expedition to the Ragged Glacier. But everything is not quite as it seems, and it's not long before the Chronographer's misfortunes become very apparent. And our winner today is Baron of Rage.
Woo! Congratulations!
Break things, because you're raging. If you didn't win, no problem. Head over to critacademy.com and subscribe for your chance to win. Just sign up for our newsletter, totally free, really easy to do. You'll get notified of some more cool stuff.
Yeah, we always... my wife recently added a new thing to the newsletter called What's Tickling Our Dice, and we've been sharing kind of new articles and stuff that really are exciting and D&D related, so you can keep up with the times. Mm-hmm. So congratulations. Definitely consider also going to our shop section. We have a free loot section. If you haven't picked up any of that stuff, please do. Lots of good stuff there, and then while you're there, if you want to pick up some of our other content, do that as well. Now, on to Candlekeep Mysteries. Austin, would you like to tell us about what is Candlekeep?
Sure. The Great Keep never fails to take my breath away. It stands on a volcanic crag 100 or so feet from the coastline, a flat-topped spur of rough stone out in the midst of the surging sea. Imagine, if you can, the top of this crag hemmed in entirely by a tall wall. This wall is interrupted by several towers all the way around, and it encloses a large space from which even more of these same towers rise.
Candlekeep is the largest repository of lore and writings in all the realms. Although my scholarly kin in Barorac don't like being reminded of that. It was once the home of a great prophet, Undead the Seer. And within its walls are written the prophecies of Alando. These vaults, it is said, contain hidden knowledge enough to make any man with the ability to discover and absorb it all powerful beyond compare. The problem with doing all that, of course, is the same as with secrets in any other location. I must know that a secret exists before its details can be sussed out. This is from the Sword Coast Adventures Guide.
Yes. So if you hadn't picked that up, that was actually one of the really cool intros into Candlekeep that I think was one of the first published things for 5th edition, and it was really cool to read, and I think it really gave a great intro to what Candlekeep is. If you've played Descent into Avernus, you spend a little bit of time there as well. So there's a lot of good stuff that comes from that.
Candlekeep really is just kind of this area where it's, if you want to just like give your players a plot hook, but they kind of failed at the first attempt of trying to grasp at it, but they obviously are interested in it, just throw Candlekeep at them. Just literally, they cannot fail if Candlekeep exists, because there will be somebody there who knows how to get them that information. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So,
and that's really actually why I think this book is such a great addition to your DM's collection. So, Candlekeep Mysteries is basically a collection of 17 short standalone D&D ventures designed for characters from level 1 through 16, which is very cool. If you each adventure begins with the discovery of a book, and each book is a key to a door behind which danger and glory awaits. These adventures can be run as one-shot games, plugged into an existing Forgotten Realms campaign, or adapted to your own personal homebrew campaign setting. I really like that this, I got mine, I think Ian's borrowing it right now so he could be prepared for the show, but it comes with a dope-ass, fleshed-out poster map of the library fortress, and really great descriptions of like the Avowed and the people that live there, which is really sweet.
I think it also should be taken into account that it really is just meant to just plug and play.
Yeah.
Like, this is all just meant, like, if you want something to be done, you can just do it. Like, you need your players to have like a sort of pseudo side quest thing going on. This is it.
Yes. And that's what I think makes it really cool.
Now, I do think it's worth pointing out, though, that the Candlekeep Mysteries is not a campaign book. It's 16 individual adventures.
17, but yes.
17. Yeah,
but yeah,
17.
that's anybody that's picked up the Yawning Portal will kind of feel comfortable, because it's kind of like that. The Yawning Portal, and I believe
Very
Ghost
similar.
of Salt Marsh was like that too, if I'm not mistaken. That's actually one of the ones I didn't get.
Yeah, I think that's more of just standalone stuff too.
Yeah.
I think that's meant for more like
now
an anthology of quests.
Yes, and different stuff.
And each one does have a different writer too, so.
And actually, so there's a comment in the Facebook group or Facebook Messenger that says, I don't particularly use pre-made adventures in general, but it sounds cool. Honestly, this is kind of how I used to be, but I've learned that I can take bits and pieces of them and the overall concept and still shape them my own way as a DM and a homebrewer, and still get a lot of value out of them. And I think that's WotC's 5th edition kind of mantra going forward, is they give you enough detail that you can run it as is, but there's so much left unsaid that you can actually just kind of change it and do it how you want. And I think this book really kind of defines that mantra, and that comes across really well when you know that this book was created by an anthology of writers from around the world, freelance writers, community content creators, people who publish across DM's Guild or Drive Through RPG, that are really working hard to get their name out there. Wizards of the Coast has really given them an opportunity to shine, and I think that is absolutely fantastic. Because there's a lot of people that do amazing work, but the RPG industry is really hard to
It's already so rich.
Yeah.
There's already so much in this community, and it's incredible that we're even this far, to be honest, because of just how many huge names are already out there.
And some would say it's saturated, but that's also a battle between homebrew too, because there's some people who will put 80 hours into something and just release it for free. And that makes it hard for somebody that wants to make it a living, because spending 80 hours, you probably should be doing a job or something. But anyways, that's nor here nor there. That's why I think this is so cool, because it's not just a bunch of people in the Wizards of Coast buildings or whatever they do doing it. It's people who are out there working to build a name for themselves as community content writers, and so it was it's very cool. So keep that in mind as we go through this. Obviously, WotC did have their hands in it and are poking around to make sure it's the best it can be, but
I'm sure they
I
have
just
a
think it was awesome.
plethora of editors
Yes.
that are all on payroll.
So we obviously, our show, which we're trying to keep it between an hour and a half, so we obviously can't go through every single one of the adventures. So we've picked couple of the, what I thought was the better ones of the lower end side, because honestly, I feel like that's where most people are going to play. One personally is my favorite out of the whole book. And then the other one was the opening adventure. So we're going to talk a little bit about these. I know Ian has quite some comments to say about the joy of extra dimensional spaces. So what we'll do is we'll talk about what it does right, and then we're going to kind of give some feedback on things we think could have done better versus, you know, what we would have done differently, I guess. Some pros and cons to it. Any questions? If you've got any questions and you're in the chat about the book, please feel free to ask. We'll do our best to answer. I don't have my book right in front of me because Ian has it, so I will be directing all questions that I don't know the answer to him. But let's start off with The Joy of the Extra Dimensional Space. It's a first level adventure by Michael Polkinghorn, and I'm sorry if I slaughtered your name. The adventurers are led on a quest to find a missing sage trapped in an extra-dimensional space, similar to Mordekainen's magnificent mansion spell. It says similar, but it is that spell. Once they find their way through the portal, they must solve the mystery to escape. So I really like this because it gives you all of them lead in with a description of the book, which I think is cool, and it also comes in with how the book arrived at Candlekeep. Ian, would you be willing to give us a short paraphrase or read of that intro of how this book came to be, and maybe the name is The Joy of Extra Dimensional Spaces, I think. Is that the name on the book? Maybe not, I don't remember.
Yes, it is The Joy of Extra Dimensional Spaces.
Oh, he's gotta go find it.
That's me to do. We're gonna have to sleep on the fly. How dare you?
Sorry. While he's doing that, I'll give a short run through. So what's cool about this is, once again, they're all mystery adventures, right? So in this one, the players arrive at Candlekeep. It gives you some examples of why they might be there, which is great, because then you've got hooks to get them there. But what makes it interesting is this is a book that talks about a wizard or a mage, a high-level mage, who has mastered or obtained in a way to make Mordekainen's mansion permanent. So it's been cast once, and she's kind of created this specific location where she can just go and it's always there. And the players have to kind of figure out where that's at. And there's some rules in regards to that, but basically it ends up being that the portal is inside the library. So once they end up going in, which one of the hooks, if I'm not mistaken, Ian, is that a sage has gone missing. He actually ended up stumbling into this hidden fortress, or this invisible fortress in Candlekeep, and got lost there because he couldn't get out. So when the players get in, they find him, he gets out, but then the door closes behind him, and now the players are stuck in. They got to kind of worm their way through this mansion to find out how to get out, because the door closed behind them. And I think that's just first of all, is an overall awesome concept right from the get-go. It's to me, it's a take on the Wizard's Tower, except for so you can play with all the magical, things that go on inside of a wizard's tower, the magical items, the gizmos, the gadgets, the living mimics or magical brooms. All those things are kind of woven into this location because it belonged to a wizard. And so the players get to experience that right at level 1, which isn't something that would usually happen. But because they stumble into this, it gives them access to jump to a demi-plane, basically. And I think that's something this book does really well, is the books allow you to traverse the world and then basically return right back to where you left off, meaning it opens up a whole new playing field for the dungeon master to have an easy way to experience why the players can travel to the astral plane, or why they can instantly travel to, you know, some underwater Atlantis and then return when they're done, which is pretty cool. Did you find that excerpt there, Ian?
And some alternate ways too that they also give as well is like not only you also could be trying to create primitive version of the spell, as we mentioned, Mordecai's mansion, or if you're also trying to research demi-planes, pocket dimensions, and other spaces outside the material realm. So.
Yes, and actually somebody in chat, Tanthalis, which is an awesome name, and I'm sorry if I slaughtered that, actually asked, does the Candlekeep add to the planar cosmology? And yes, it does. You get to visit a variety of different places, and I think that's something that they have really encouraged in the writers in Candlekeep. Go anywhere. Go anywhere. And so that comes through on a couple of the books pretty well, I think.
I also like the fact that because obviously you said it was you know, about it was based on the Magnificent Mansion spell. So I took a look at it, and it sounds, you're kind of right, honestly. Very, if it's not pretty close, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like actually, word for word. So it's very interesting. So I looked at that. I was like, okay, so I can kind of already envision this place that you're kind of going to.
And that's a part of it. So did you have that intro? Because every one of these books has this really cool intro. I think it's cool anyway. I guess it depends on who you are.
All right. Well, I feel like some adventures get better interest than others, but
yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the extra-dimensional spaces was donated to Candlekeep with the rest of the library of the mage Cassandra following her untimely disappearance. In her will, Cassandra bequeathed her collection to Candlekeep in appreciation for her many years she spent in hallowed halls. This book is a treatise on extra-dimensional spaces similar to those created by the Mordecai's Magnificent Mansion spell. This information alone makes it worthy of note, but Cassandria's additions in the margins are even more interesting. In arcane shorthand, she detailed how she created a permanent Mordecai's Magnificent Mansion spell and records the command word to open the mansion's doorway.
Yeah, and
that's the first paragraph there.
And that's why I wanted you to read that, because if I remember, it talks about the passcode, right? The command word.
Yes.
That's what the players have to find in order to escape. So as they're going through her mansion, there's libraries, there's books, there's scrolls, everything, and they have to find ones that have the passcode. But it's spread across multiple books, and on certain books there is a letter on certain of the books. And so when you're wandering through this mansion, you're interacting with like homunculi. Yes, that. Homunculi. You interact with some of these, and they might share little tidbits about, oh, we were told never to touch the ones with the individual letters on the side, you know? So now it's like, oh, that's interesting, let's go. But you'll only get that information if the characters interact with those. And that's kind of what makes it kind of fun, I guess. Ian, you got to read through this. What are some of the things that you really did like about it before we bash on some of the things that we didn't like about it?
I did like the overall setting, and the fact that it is a extra-dimensional space is something you don't really see pop up in a lot of adventures, too. Yeah. Especially since it's like a build on a previously existing spell.
Yeah, absolutely. That was pretty good.
I like, for the book description, which is a little further down on the same page. Now, remind you, I'm looking at a photo, so it's not nearly as easy. But it says it's looked ornate, and it has some gold filigree on it, and there's a peculiar illustration on the cover of bust of an imposing spellcaster, and a character can make a DC 12 Intelligence, Arcana, or History check to recognize that is the legendary mage Mordekainen. Yep. And I thought that was very cool. It's just a nice little extra thing that you can add on top of it. It's like, this is someone you know.
Yeah, and what's cool about that is a lot of these adventures tie into the different lore that was used, that's in the world. So, and you were encouraged to tie it to the to the lore in the world in some way. This one tied it specifically to Mordenkainen and a specific spell that people can use. So the one thing I thought was really cool about this adventure in particular, and I'm looking at the same photos. I took pictures so that I would have copies if Ian didn't, because I didn't ask him to bring the book back, so I could kind of keep up. So I'm trying to kind of do the same thing. What was really cool is they have different puzzles in the different rooms to find the books, which I think is really cool. If I recall, there was one that's all about going into like the astrology and using these sets of telescopes to see in different stars, and then when they're all aligned, it unlocks like the name of the book or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But everything you need to kind of do that is there, kind of. And that's where I want to kind of get into some of the things. This one I don't think does a good a job as it could leading the DM through it compared to some of the other ones. And I think that was one of your takes on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, as written, you do have to find these books to progress. And as we kind of touched on, the only way you find out these books are really important is when you interact with one of the few NPCs on this adventure. And I feel like unless the DM decides to have them outright say it, you need to ask the right questions for them to even mention them in the first place. And many of the puzzles that you need to solve to progress, I do mean need to progress, you have to solve them, but some of the puzzles, including the telescope one you mentioned, but it's not really obvious or upfront about the fact that it's a puzzle in the first place.
Yes, and this is something that I'm sure you've noticed that when I write the encounters that we do, I give uses of skills specifically, because if you don't tell the DM, do this tool, or use this skill to reward some sort of piece of knowledge, not all DMs are going to understand that. For me, a lot of DMs forget that if a player can't figure something out, you should be saying, all right, give me an intelligence check, and then feeding them information, because me as the player, I'm not a smart person, but I'm playing a wizard with an eidetic memory, and he would be able to figure this stuff out. So at that point, it should be on the DM to say, give me an intelligence check. And I feel like even though that should be common knowledge, it's not. So even a single box that says, hey, if the players get lost, feel free to call for an intelligence check, and feed them information based on that. If that super smart wizard does really low, you're like, yeah, you think the telescopes are important, and they should probably be pointed somewhere, and they can't figure it out. You say, well, you think it's this, and then you basically just narrate, hey, you guys spend an hour playing with these and you get what you need, but you've just lost an hour, and then you, as a DM, you would find a way, but that's not really described in the book at all. It's just assumed you would know to do that, and I think that's kind of one of the shortcomings, but that's also something that you would have to put in everything all the time.
Yeah, that's something that you would even, like, if there's ever going to be like a Dungeon Master Guide 2, like 2.0, that would have to be something included.
Yeah.
Because that is on, like, because I'm in a different campaign right now with a different group of friends, and he's a new DM, and he's not bad. He's
Hope he's not watching.
No, he's not. He's definitely new, and like I think he's afraid to do certain things, and I think he is afraid of giving away the answer to puzzles when it's like when I can barely even answer a 5th grade puzzle. It's just really jarring because you know how to handle those kind of puzzle situations for players like myself, or not very intelligent on those kinds of things, and I'm like, hey, I need assistance. Does my character know this?
Yes.
Because I always say that. Does my character know this?
Because that's important.
Because this is a role-playing game. I do not... There are going to be things that I know that my character doesn't know.
Right.
And there's going to be things that my character knows that I don't know.
Absolutely.
So I think that's like a huge thing in general not just strictly in this book, but like in D&D as a whole that DMs do need to take into account, or even players maybe even need to ask, can I take and make an intelligence check
Right.
to grasp at any straws to kind of figure out anything? Because like you as the DM, I would hope you would know the answer.
Well,
Sometimes I'm aware that sometimes it's like, oh, this puzzle's kind of on the fly, and unfortunately, I'm just kind of waiting for you guys to give me something to work with.
yeah. And I think
But-
that's one of the big things that this particular adventure falls short on. But I also think that's the worst place to put an adventure that falls short is right at the beginning of like a level 1. I mean, because you can assume that at level 1, it's possible somebody that's never ran it's going to run it. Something like that's not going to happen on a level 16 adventure. So I do think that was one of the shortcomings for newer DMs on this adventure. But don't get me wrong, I love this adventure. It's one of the reasons I picked it. It's because it was my favorite. I love the concept. I love the idea that it's based around a spell. I love that it's full of puzzles that need to be combined. By the way, the command word is liberty, I think. Or liberty? Is that what it is? To get out, and so you've got all these books you got to find, and I think that was a very good use of it. And the gentleman Tantalus in the chat actually, had mentioned about the I just trying to read two things, and I just totally lost my train of thought. If the players could capture the mansion themselves, and once they know the command words, that could easily become their
new home base.
New home base. But here's the thing. That spell, anybody that with an Arcana check of 13, I think it says, that knows that spell, if the user dies, dissipates. So what does that tell us about the creator of this location?
They're still alive.
They're still alive, so I would say that, sure, let them do it. And then sometime down the road, somebody shows up like, what the hell are you doing in my house, a-holes? Why did you redecorate? Where did my scroll go? Do you know how long it took me to find that? So I think that could be its own kind of adventure hook off of that. So, all right, we kind of spent a lot of time on that, more than I wanted. Was there overall any other comments on this one before we move to the one that's directly my personal favorite?
I'm good.
Ian?
Overall, I think it's a decent adventure, but I also think it needs a lot of work too. And I do think it requires a lot of effort from the DM in many cases to tweak a few things to keep things going.
Yes, and that's definitely not super great. All right, so we're gonna go over the next one. We'll probably only spend like 15 minutes on it, but the next one is actually one of my personal favorite. It's called Shem, Shimes, Bedtime Rhyme. This adventure is not only is it everything you would expect out of an adventure based on a book, but it's basically one that tinkers around with the players being cursed and they're constantly reiterating this rhyme. They end up being tossed in like the cellar basement with some avowed who have been just regurgitating this rhyme over and over and over, and they kind of lose control of their characters. One of the things is it could potentially lead to players attacking each other or killing the other people there, which there's quite a few very fleshed out NPCs in this bedtime. Who was the creator? I can't read it on here. Oh, actually, I think I have it in the show notes. So this was a 4th level adventure by Ari Levitch. After staying the night at Candlekeep's Inn, the adventurers awake with the same catchy, contagious rhyme in their head. The mystery leads the adventurers to a sinister clockwork book, which is awesome, by the way. I never thought to make a clockwork book. After being forced into quarantine. Wow. This hits really close to home for some people, I bet. Obviously it's something that many of us can relate. So what's really cool about this is, like I said, it kind of touches on that madness a little bit, and it kind of it does take away some agency from the players because they become affected with this curse. And
I think that inspires action very quickly because they're like, oh, I can't control this. I need to deal with this.
Yeah. One thing that really stood out for me, aside from the dope, you guys ever have those little pop-up books where you open it and something pops up? Totally what this book does. It opens and like little gadgets and gizmos and shits pop. It's really cool. The artwork is fantastic. Go ahead.
It's also a music box.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's important. That's another part of the whole puzzle thing. The one thing that this writer did that I thought was awesome, right on the very first page, it's broken down into events. And it basically has like 2-sentence events. The first one's quarantine, the Elder's outburst, all the way down to the final showdown with Shem. Is that what it is? Shimmy. Shimmy. But anyways, and so I thought that was laid out really, really well. Now your game,
like that there's an escape attempt in there.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh, we gotta get out of here.
I thought that was really neat and really cool. What the hell? My shit's all messed up. The rhyme that comes in here is really funny. And not funny as in haha funny, but like it's really well done, and it kind of gives me a creepy vibe, which I feel like is obviously what we're going for. And when you're going through this, the players kind of have to rely on interacting with each other to kind of figure this stuff out, and I think that's really key. I think this would be very, very like conversation roleplay heavy compared to some other adventures.
Yep.
Ian, what did you think about it?
I definitely think it has a very good escalation going through it too.
Mm-hmm. That's a good.
And
way to
I
write it.
do like the random events that can happen that you do roll on in the later events.
Mm-hmm.
It can mess with the players, and I kind of got a not Nightmare on Elm Street vibe, but you're definitely being haunted and manipulated by a spirit that is inside this book.
Yes.
This is everybody who was quarantined inside this section of the library, so.
And I would say what I think makes this.
I'm gonna be 1 second. There's
Yep.
a noise in my apartment. Hold on.
Make sure nobody's trying to, break in and rob you. The one thing that I think really makes this unique as an adventure is there is a very special condition needed to kill the boss. You can't just kill them till their HP's gone. You have to beat them in a very unique way. And in fact, it's the exact same way that a young child managed to, in the history, a young child had managed to take this bad boy out, dropping it under a really heavy mill wheel or some shit, if I remember right. And Tantalus says it sounds almost Eldritch or Fey. That you're not far off. That's pretty spot on. That's very much kind of what's going on, if I remember. The shadow monster at the end is he a Fey or just a monstrosity? I don't remember.
It just says medium undead.
Okay, but he's very like ghostly and creepy. But overall, obviously, the puzzle, the whole mystery is to figure out why it's happening, what's causing it, and then undo it. And there's a lot to that. Like I said, I'm trying to keep it short so we don't have a whole lot of time. Can any of the stories be used simultaneously? That probably, but that would probably take a little bit. You mean like, are you talking about like individually combining different aspects of every book, or book in a book kind of thing, like some Page Master shit? Because I don't really like some of them. Let's use the two we got here as an example. One is you're in a mansion. Maybe inside that mansion, people are going crazy, and you combine it with this one. So yeah, I think you could do that, right?
Yeah, I'm actually reading them. Like, yeah, I think you could get away with that. Like,
Take a little bit of work, but yeah.
I was gonna say, like, yeah, there'd be a little bit of a hassle on the DM's part, but I mean, if you want to add to like the chaos and the just the craziness of the event, like I feel like you could easily do something with it.
Yeah.
It would just be a lot of, again, homework on the DM, and this is the entire purpose of this is to make the homework on the DM easier.
Right. Page Master meets Inkheart. That's a good one. So the big thing that really, like I said, jumped out at me is I love the fact that the boss requires a specific condition to beat him. You can't just blow him up. You can't just slash at him. And I think that can terrify a group of adventurers who aren't used to running away. You know what I mean? Because if you fight this thing too early on, and you're battling him, he's going to kick your ass if you don't find a way to deal with him. He's basically immortal until you beat him a certain way. And that's something I think will catch most players by surprise. Hey, what's up, Knights Board? Thanks for joining us. I think that's something that will catch most players by surprise, because very rarely do DMs put the players in a situation where they are forced to retreat until they gain enough knowledge on how to deal with it.
It's very similar to the Horde of the Dragon Queen.
Yes, very early on.
There's the very early dragon fight, and
Yeah.
you're kind of like meant to not fight it. Like it's like, hey, run.
Yeah.
This is a dragon. I hope you know that dragons are like very powerful mythical creatures, and you are a level 1 soldier. You need to move.
Yeah, and it's not even just the dragon. You have to fight that big half dragon guy who will wipe the floor with most party members.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But
And that's a big thing as well. Like
it's
that's
too strong. Well, you're not the biggest, baddest motherfucker on the planet now, are you? You're level 1. Deal with it, bitch.
Yeah, like that was like a very big thing. So I do kind of like that the main antagonist of this
Yeah.
adventure has like that sort of pseudo condition where it's like you can't really deal with him this early on.
I would like to see more of that. I've been preaching that on the show for a long time. I think it's personally okay to throw your players into a situation where whatever their foe is can't be beat through combat. Either you need to negotiate, bribe, or blackmail, or run away. And I'd like to see more of that.
I think like the thing that DMs might struggle with for getting their players to run from said person is you need to narrate and drive home the fact that this person is clearly more powerful than your entire party. Like you need to, there's got to be some form of thing that maybe your wizard says, oh, the way he wields this mage wields their spell book, it seems really dignified, like they are very clearly know what they are doing.
Yeah.
Or maybe they can like sense some weird magical presence about them, or I don't know, something like that.
And I do think that's something that inexperienced DMs can struggle with. For me, I've always said, if you're not sure how to handle it, take the core feature of dragons, which is the frightful presence, and add that to any monster you want it to be obvious that this thing is badass and is going to kick some threats. If you say, give me a wisdom save, oh, you're terrified of this, the player isn't going to argue with that. You can tell by the way it moves that it's pristine. The way your weapon cut into it, it barely even flinches. Not every DM, especially inexperienced ones, can think of those sorts of things. So, anyway, go ahead.
I was gonna say, on top of that, the whole like it just taking little damage, like your player goes up and you hit it, and it like obviously this thing might have a very large health pool. It kind of you can say like the hit was clean. Everything you did was correct, and it did damage, but for some reason it just looks unfazed. It actually looks to you with almost a sense of sadness. It's like, this guy's pathetic.
Overall, what would you say was a negative, a con to this particular adventure? Was there anything that stood out? I know Ian read through it thoroughly. I don't know if you did, Austin. But...
Like, I can definitely see some argument of some people feel that this one's too linear, that the players don't really have too many options, which is something I kind of did touch on the last one, I suppose, too. But I definitely felt like there's a couple of times, too, where some of the flavor text that was given throughout, I don't think was necessarily represented mechanically. Like with Shem, for example, it says when he's present, and over half of the players and NPCs are still saying the rhyme, which you have to concentrate to not do, is made more powerful, but there's nothing really in the mechanics or stat block reflects that. Like, to me, that would imply that you would still be rolling on the phenomenon influence table.
That I agree.
At no point is that really outright stated necessarily either, so...
That was actually one of the same things I was thinking about. Like I said, overall, I think this is, in my opinion, this was one of my favorites. There's a lot to it. Obviously, we can't sit and read it all to you, but I really like the book. I do want to take a minute to talk about, you're going to want to pick this book up if you're a DM who likes to have ready-to-run one-shots and interesting locations to visit. you're going to want to pick this up. If you are, then you're going to love having this one because it's full of hooks, it's full of interesting NPCs and short adventures to have on your shelf just for, oh, everyone's coming over, let's do this. And they're short enough that it only takes a little bit to read to really know what's going on. So,
and each adventure is about 10 pages or so.
Yep.
Really not that long. And like honestly, if you've always just wanted to run like a mystery adventure and you weren't really sure how to do it, this is a really easy like book to just pick up and go with.
Yes.
It's because of how everything is laid out. I mean, we've already kind of beat that point home. It's just it is there for you, and it's all pretty much done for you. All you have to do is literally run it, and you can still have some maneuverability with it even then. So
yeah, absolutely. If your players enjoy investigating lost prophecies, curse, lore, enemies that they will be facing and would happily make a trip to the library to learn about it, this is definitely something you want. As we talked before in the Shem, he requires you to know exactly how to beat him. So you have to dig into that to figure that out by talking and doing your rooting around and stuff. And some players don't find that fun, but there are some that want to know how to beat Superman and aren't going to show up until they know a way to do it, you know? Batman would never show up to fight Superman without having his kryptonite, right? And
for sure,
if you've got those sorts of players, this is a really good collection for you, I think. If you would like to encourage D&D to provide more anthologies to showcase more authors in the future, pick this up. That was, in my opinion, that's probably one of the biggest reasons to pick this up is you're saying, hey, WotC, we like what these other people are doing better than your team. Go hire more people. Which I think is really great for everyone because if you're not in the content creation realm, you don't realize that as a content creator, you often end up falling into this rhythm of this is a certain type of content I always write. So by adding a vast new group of people to writing, you get a new multitude of options that probably wouldn't have come out otherwise. Different points of view, I guess. And then, of course, if you really like Tales of Yawning Portal, you're going to want to pick this up because it's going to tickle your dice just as much. Any other comments on this product, this book, its contents, the writers?
No, I think you drove it home pretty well with the just as like a short like TLDR. Like, yeah, if you really just want something quick, easy, just something with a little bit of mystery to it, and not necessarily just a lot of combat, just 10-page adventures. This is it. This is what you need.
Yeah, and
I
go ahead.
And I will admit, I did like sit down and go through multiple reviews for the book, just to kind of get a pulse on what other people's reaction are for this one too. And overall, the impressions I got from multiple people were that, as we kind of touched on, not all these one-shot adventures, which are not tied together directly, some are better than others, short version. And
Yes.
some criticisms that I've seen too is there's not really a summary in front of the adventures for all of them, only a handful of them, which some DMs kind of do like, because they kind of want a quick summary like of how things would be going on, how things should proceed, so they can figure stuff out as they go along.
Yep.
They also point out too that there's not really any appendices because there are unique items and monsters in this book.
You have to go through.
It's tied to like the page where it is on the adventure, and a lot of people are like, I kind of would have liked to have a section just for those off to the side so I could use these in other things without having to hunt them down, which I kind of get too. So
For sure. Overall, like I said, I like it. If you are, I'm gonna try something here for sure. Oh, that's not good. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add our link. If this is something you're interested, you can head on over to critacademy.com/post/episode 214. We do have an affiliate link there, so if you're planning on picking it up and you want to have WotC throw a little, Amazon throw a little affiliate back to us for the show, that'd be great. Helping us little content creators like us would be great. Definitely
it would help immensely. And
make sure you leave a review and tell WotC that you liked it, especially if you want to see more authors. Because I cannot, as a content creator myself, I cannot stress enough that they should do this more often. All right. I think that'll do it for our main topic today. Before we move on to our Unearthed tips and tricks, I would like to just take a moment to send you on over. We just released our new product. I don't know it's a new product, but it's a compilation product in our shop at critacademy.com/critstore. It is a adventures bundle, which contains all of our non-DM's Guild player options. You can pick it up. It's got the Blade Dancer Ranger. It's got the Circle of the River Druid, the School of Binding Wizard, the Skybreaker Fighter, the Warmind Divine Domain for the Cleric, and then the Werecat Playable Race, all in one single file to make it super simple. So if you want to support us and our tiny little content creating asses, please do so.
Yes.
All right, let's go to our...
And now, what you've all been waiting for. Our Unearthed Tips and Tricks segment, where we bring you new and reusable material for both players and DMs.
Alrighty. Austin, would you like to tell us about our character concept today? Ian, sorry.
This is Ian's.
That is Ian's, my bad.
Character concept today is the Cynic. This character is anything but excited to be part of the events. This character is a really cynical person, and wields sarcasm like a master warrior does a weapon. Precision and intent. Jackwagons. Now, this doesn't make the Cynic a bad person, but most adventuring ordeals put them at unease. Very rarely are they surprised anymore by some of the actions adventurers take for their own self-interest. Oh, rogue, you're gonna take the thing and not ask anything else if we want to? How awesome. This has just continued to prove their point. The Cynic is usually one to keep a secret, one that with an adventure party may bring to light if they are not careful. As such, they often choose their words with great care.
Have you guys ever played a cynical character?
Can't say I have. I don't feel like I have.
I played one once.
I kind of feel like this is the character that we, who might say something that a lot of us might think as players, but not necessarily say.
Right.
That's the type.
Oh.
That was a bard I played once. He wasn't like an entertaining bard or anything. He wasn't like, he didn't really play music or anything, but he said what was on his mind. And it didn't always go over well, especially in the very diplomatic moments.
I just want to imagine he was a bard, not because he wanted to be one, but because he thought it paid well.
That's
It paid
awesome.
just well enough to get the bills done. He was like, it works, I guess. I seem to be good at it.
They're like, all right, guys, who's got the map? I don't have it. I thought you had it. Yeah, of course you lost the map. I made a copy. It's okay. I knew you'd lose it. But it's a really simple character concept, but I think it's a lot, it's funny and can be really, really fun to play a man or person of few but powerful words.
Yes.
It's like, oh yeah, look, we're captured by the guards. Surprise.
Who would have guessed? I can't believe it.
Oh,
You
you're
guys
gonna...
are so good
hey.
at this.
Look, a dungeon full of undead. How original.
It's like, all right, which one of the chests is a mimic?
You look at the three guards, you're like, you're the stupid strong one. You're the one with the weird powers.
Breaking news.
And you must be the pretty boy.
There's breaking news for my show.
You now have 1,000 subscribers, and that's the person.
Oh, we got to give a huge shout out. So we did hit 1,000 YouTube subscribers, and I want to give a huge shout out to Alexander Hennings. Woo! Toot toot! You're our 1,000th subscriber. I will be sending him a prize because hell yeah. Put a note so I don't forget that I just said that. I'll forget by the end of the show. Congratulations! Thank you so much. We have now passed 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Yay! That's really exciting. So, anyways, I think that'll do it for the Cynic. Actually, a cynical thing would have been like, yeah, still at 999, I bet.
They're gonna unsub right after that. I give them the prize, of course.
Right. That's exactly what would happen. Very cynical of you. That'll do it for our character concept, the Cynic. Thanks, Knights Board. We're really excited for that. I've been pushing for that really hard for 3 months. And we finally made it. Our monster variant of the podcast is the Deadeye. We're going to start here with the Bone Devil stat block. We're going to make it super easy. We're going to get rid of its claw, its telepathy, its flight, its sting, and we're going to swap its strength and dex scores, and its multi-attack is going to go down to 2 from 3. Hey, Justin, that's almost all of its powers. Yeah, I know. That's how it works.
New
Happens
ones?
often.
There's a list.
Right. So I really like this. First of all, you can choose to make this character a medium if you want, but it made so much more sense for me to leave it as a large creature with like a tree-sized bow, right? Just this massive bow. Tree size probably a little,
That's a little large, but
right, but you know what I mean.
yeah.
So we're going to start by giving it the sharpshooter feat. Attacking at long range doesn't impose disadvantage on the Deadeye's weapon attack rolls. Ha-ha! Additionally, its ranged attacks ignore half cover and 3/4 cover. You can't hide from the Deadeye, right?
More thinking it's shooting a ballista the size of a tree trunk, so
Yes.
the 3/4 cover doesn't provide any cover if it just blows the cover apart.
The cover's just gone. Or the object it hits shatters in so many pieces, it just pierces you anyway. And of course, it wouldn't be a dead eye if I didn't make it undead. So, of course, we're going to give it Undead Fortitude. We took away its flight. So we had to give it something as a trade-off to help keep it alive, because usually HP is factored into the fact that it can fly. So we went ahead
Unless
and...
you're a dragon.
Right. I went ahead and gave it... Yeah, some people don't do that. I don't know why. That's a whole nother rant. Oh, I got a big giant wings. They're just for show. I'm just going to sit and swipe at you. The Undead Fortitude, if you don't know, when the Deadeye hits 0 hit points, it makes a con save of a DC 5 plus the damage taken. Unless it's a radiant or a critical. On a success, it only drops to 1 instead. I have been in situations where this has kept a monster up for far longer than it should have been.
Oh, yeah.
So here's where it's going to get interesting. We're going to give it the long bow staff. I totally harnessed green arrow here. It's going to make a melee weapon attack with its staff, plus 8 to hit. Its reach is 10 feet because it's big. And of course, it's going to do 1d8 plus 4 bludgeoning damage. That's it. But remember, it can make 2 attacks, so take that. The big stuff's going to come from its big long bow. It makes a range of 150 to 600. We have the feet. So that means it basically can shoot up to 600 with no problems. It does.
That is crazy.
It does 2d8 plus 4 piercing, and then another 5d6 poison, because what archer wouldn't poison their arrows? I mean, come on, people. So now you got to do a DC 14 con save or become poisoned for 1 minute. Of course, making a save at the end of your turn ends it. Now, we have to give it some special powers. We're going to give it piercing shot. Someone just mentioned shooting a giant ballista bolt. That's exactly what this does. It recharges on a 5 or 6. The Deadeye loads a massive, unwieldy arrow into its bolt, and it releases it in a 60-foot line and a 5-foot wide. Each character must make a DC 16 dex save or take 10d10 damage on a failed save or half as much on a success. Oh, you're going to
so
get
cool.
wrecked. He just shot a tree at you.
Yeah, it literally shoots a tree at you.
But wait, there's more. Remember, we took away one of its actions. I'm a big fan of spreading an enemy's attacks over multiple turns, just because I feel like that makes combat seem more engaging. So we're gonna give them 3 legendary actions. It says 2 here. That's a typo. We're gonna give him 3 legendary actions. 1 he can detect, which means he can make a wisdom perception check. Another is retreat. The Deadeye shoots an arrow that releases a flash of light, creating a distraction, allowing it to disengage and move up to 20 feet. Great for running away just to unload another piercing shot at you. And then, of course, 2 actions. It can make another attack, so you can spread the love on different turns. What do you guys think about this ballista shooting undead arrow giant thing?
I would love it because I love the piercing shot so much that I would honestly want one of the legendary actions to make it so it has a chance to recharge it.
I almost did that.
That would be really... I mean, that'd be pretty strong,
It would be.
admittedly.
Well,
But
is it though? Because if you look at the normal damage that it does, let's say it's longbow and you take 2 attacks. The average on hit is 13 plus 17, I think, right? That's 30 damage. So you're giving up
Yep.
30 damage against 2 or 1 target, or against one target if you attack the same target, or you're doing 55. So I would say giving up an extra attack, because if you were to make a regular attack with that that action or that legendary action, you would then be bringing up to what, like 40 damage or so. So it would be right about in the same range. So you'd be giving that up for a chance to get this other thing back. So I could see an argument made for that.
Of course, I'm not a game developer, so what do I know?
No,
Maybe it's
and that was one of the
maybe it's
things.
horrifically broken.
Yeah. It seems like it would be all right number crunching wise. The rule of thumb is to assume that a line shot will always hit at least 2 characters. That's the balancing thing. I guess I don't know what you want to call that, but that's the assumption you make when determining damage. I think that's out of one of the books that we have. Anyways, overall, Ian, what did you think?
I like it. I don't think there's enough monsters out there that are necessarily built to operate at range, which this one does very effectively. So yeah.
Yeah.
I just love the idea that I could just rip a tree out of the ground.
Spellcasters anyway.
Yeah, at least the ones that aren't spellcasters for sure. There's a lot of like really awesome spellcasting ranged monsters, but not really a lot of just regular ranged monsters.
Yeah. Did you ever? I could just see it. A big giant undead brute walks up, puts his hands on a tree and runs his hand, and all the branches just peel off, and then he just snaps it over and puts it on his bow.
See, but that's what I'm expecting though, because this thing is
awesome.
huge. It's supposed to be this like behemoth, and you're just like, oh, he's gonna use that tree as a weapon. As like a melee weapon, they presume. And then he just pulls out his giant bow, and he's just like loading it in, and everyone's looking at him like, no.
I'm not gonna lie, this was 100% inspired by shard bows in Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archives.
It's just very cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right, that'll do it for our monster variant, the Deadeye. I cannot wait to share the lore with my patrons.
Be super cool.
I'm so excited. I've got all kinds of stuff I want like bullet pointed for it, and it's gonna be awesome. So, if you want it, you can become a patron, and you'll get this plus like 100 other ones.
Yeah.
All right, Austin, would you like to tell us about our encounter today? This is a bit long one.
Absolutely, I don't mind. So our encounter of the podcast today is the Savage Sewers, and it's savage because of a very particular reason that later on. The characters have been tasked with tracking down a crew of thieves known as the Triple Triads after they made a hasty escape from the local city guards near the sewers. The sewers are vast, so the characters have been hired to help out. Water from a river above flows from the east into a steep spillway, which empties into a deep pool in the middle of an octagonal chamber. A walkway rings the massive chamber. The pool flows into the channel, tunnel and channel, that the adventurers have been following up to this point. 2 savage minotaurs from Code Academy, go and find them, are here, feeding on the remains of the previous victims. When the prisoners encountered the minotaurs, they were able to fend them off and distract them long enough to allow the other 2 of them to escape. They managed to slay one of the monstrosities, but only wounded the others. While they managed to escape, they were both injured and dropped a satchel in the process. Near the dead minotaur on the floor lay a mangled dark gray satchel. Its contents spilled out onto the floor. Beside the satchel is a length of parchment and a set of noblemen's clothes. A piece of paper with what appears to be the list of book titles. Most of them have been stricken through, but 3 have check marks next to them. And then you can insert the names of the Candlekeep Mysteries books, because of course you can.
See what I did there?
There an unside note that reads, a character that can read Thieves' Cant can read the following. For anyone else, it just contains a recipe for homemade cinnamon bread. Now, what it actually says for those who can read Thief Cant, which I love, by the way, I don't think it gets used ever enough. I think it needs to be so much more in play, so I really enjoy this.
I'm your boy. I got you covered.
I love it. Victor, Roland, and Zanelli. Once you've secured what you can to aid us in our search, meet with Keldon in the cave to the south of the city, along the merchant's path. If you should be discovered, slay any witnesses. If you fail us again, prison time and a beating will be the least of you and your family's worries. Fresh smatterings of blood are found near the satchel leading the way. Bloody footprints lead through the tunnels to the exit. A successful DC 14 Wisdom medicine check determines this blood belonged to some sort of humanoid. If they identify the blood as humanoid, a character can then make a successful DC 14 Wisdom Insight check, concludes that the blood must be from the thieves, suggesting one or both of them are seriously injured. Which makes sense considering savage freaking minotaurs are there.
Yep.
The spillway emerges into the open air at the base of the city's exterior walls on the banks of the river. And then after that, it's kind of up to you from that encounter.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Sorry, that was
I like
a
the
long
Definitely
open-ended-
one.
saying of Thieves Can't Hear was a nice touch.
I love the fact that there's thieves' can't. I think that is the biggest thing to take home because it really, honestly, doesn't get used a whole lot.
And I think it would be
But-
used perfect for something like this, because, you know,
Mm-hmm.
thieves can't.
Yeah.
Can
I
read.
also like how it's open-ended. This isn't one of the encounters that has kind of closure already put
Mhm.
into it. So this one kind of means like, what happens after they get to the open air? Well, maybe the thieves are right there. Maybe they're dead. Maybe they didn't get away. Maybe they succumbed to their wounds and they're very clearly dead now.
It's almost like I left it a mystery.
Wow, I wonder why.
See what I did there?
I do like it.
And I also thought it was awesome to be able to the satchel could contain one of these books from the Candlekeep, which tied into the overall theme too. Which is why it took so much writing. I'm like, I'm gonna have to write a lot to make sure I fit that all to make sense.
Yeah.
But
And it makes sense that thieves would attempt to steal it, and then they have to really hide that they stole this because, for those who don't know anything about Candlekeep immediately, they don't play around.
No.
They will absolutely hunt you down relentlessly. So
For
they have
Pete's
to-
sakes, they have a ghost dragon as a sentinel for the library.
Yeah,
the
imprisoned
fact
at the
they even
bottom.
got that far, the fact that they got that far means they were probably master thieves. So
Well, now they're almost dead thieves.
now they're almost dead.
But yeah, so this is something really fun, and I thought it'd be nice
Very
to
good
include.
encounter.
While it includes our savage minotaur, you can put any other monster in.
For sure.
I'm gonna start doing stuff like that, mostly for my patrons who are actually using these things. But maybe I'll put alternates in there. Anyways, I thought it was a fun one, and it tied really well to the theme of this episode. So that'll do it for our encounter of the podcast, Savage Sewers. Get it? Savage.
Really like that one.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. Thank you. I am great. Ian, would you like to tell us about our magic item of the podcast? I would like to take a second to say that this was a request from one of my TikTok followers. He says, swords and sticks, or what do you say, swords? Swords get all the magical item love. Can you make me a
True.
pole arm? So, I did.
I was gonna say it's a halberd, and I'm already in love. I don't need to know anything else. It's a halberd, and I'm excited.
Magic item today is Barorac the Sky Breaker. This cobalt blue halberd pulses with crackling blue and white energy. Holding it is like trying to hold a tumultuous lightning storm in your hands.
I am so
And
loving
it's very
this.
rare. Requires attunement. This halberd grants a +1 to bonus. It grants a +1 bonus to attack and damage made with it. While you're holding it, you also gain a +1 to AC and saving throws. So this
Yeah.
buffs you up in more ways than one.
I fucking love this thing because you can just imagine a dude with a halberd, like he's just huge. I love
And
it.
this halberd also holds 10 charges, which you regain 1d6 plus 4 expended charges at dawn, and you expend the last charge, roll a d20. At 1, the halberd keeps the +1 to attack and damage, but loses everything else. Roll 20, regained 1d4 plus 2 charges, which is, you don't see very often.
That's different.
A few other features too is when you hit with a melee attack using the halberd, you can expend 1 charge to deal an extra 2d4 lightning damage to the target. And some spells in here. You can spend 1 or more of his charges to cast the following spells. Save DC of 15 or +7 to spell attack bonuses where applicable. Options include Thunder Wave, Lightning Bolt, and Chain Lightning.
Real lightning.
Thing's a beast.
Yeah, this weapon is brutal.
The chain lightning is a 6th level spell, but takes all 10 charges. You know what that means?
You gotta roll.
There's a chance you'll lose your magic weapon. Well, at least the crackling lightning part, which I think is just awesome. So tell us what you like about the this magic item that is totally inspired by one of my favorite anime characters, Sinbad, and his Barorac Psycha power. So yeah, it turns out Barorac means lightning in like Arabic or Aramaic or something. So, all right, tell us what you like about it.
That is
I
awesome.
mean, it's not just a +1 to attack and damage. It gives you a buff to your saves and your AC as well, plus the other features it has too.
That's right.
Gives a player a lot to work with.
Yeah.
I honestly love static buffs. That's always been a huge thing for me. I just love watching my numbers go up in any video game, in any game ever. So this to me, the +1 to attack and damage rolls, cool. I like that. I like that a lot. I like things that are immediately tangible to me. But I love the fact that it gives me the +1 bonus to AC and saving throws. I like without anything else. I'm already in love because I just get to watch my numbers go up. And then I love that I basically get a pseudo smite, which is fun, except it's kind of better than a smite. Kinda. Only reason being because I think smites are 1d8s typically, and I think 2d4s, no matter what your lowest, is always like it averages a lot better.
Yeah.
So
It'll be
that's
harder to
cool.
get max damage, but your average will be higher.
And you cannot roll a 1,
Right.
so that's always good. You'll
Of
always
course,
do
it
at
depends
least
on
damage.
which level spell you use to field smite too, and what
Right.
you're hitting it with. So,
Mhm.
Yeah. I
I
almost
do-
made that a little bigger in damage, but I decided that was probably just fine.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that'll do it for our magic item, the Barorac Sky Breaker. Our Dungeon Master tip of the podcast is use item as quest hooks to share lore. Candlekeep Mysteries takes the idea that each book within the library can contain untold pieces of information and lore in the world, each one leading to a potential quest revealing a mystery should the characters decide to take the hook. You can easily expand this to other items within the Dungeons & Dragons or RPG game world in general. A great example would be characters stumbling across the remains of a previous adventuring party that failed in their quest and died within the dungeon. Adding
Yeah.
a simple item such as a worn silver locket with a family picture can go a long way. In this example, the locket could contain a family photo, but you could expand upon its contents to something unexpected, such as a secret password to a thieves guild written in thieves' cant. Boom! Or it could be a compass that points in a strange direction that isn't north all the time. Whatever the item is, tossing a 1 or 2 line hook as part of its description can really go a long way to building lore. What do you guys think about that? Don't all
I
get
do
excited
think that
at
like
once.
building off of items that you find, which can lead to other things, is not a bad way to go. And it helps you organically move along too.
Yeah. Is it because the one's a compass?
Yeah.
I totally could just see you both be like,
Yeah, I was just like, okay. But I mean, like, it does make sense, right? Like, just having just these tiny, seemingly insignificant things, right, already can do so much to your players and, like, just become hooks. Because they're going to grow attachments to items that they find. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's just going to happen no matter what. So, I do see this working.
And it's one of those things that you don't have to figure out right away. Just 1 or 2
No.
line, and then you'll find out immediately if they're interested. They'll be like, dude, you guys, this thing points the wrong direction. What happens if we follow it? And then you
Yeah, like-
automatically know what your players want.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And then you can prepare for it.
yeah, you can.
Like, that's a thing. Like, you don't have to do this on the fly. You could be like, oh yeah, you guys have to go through this first, and you can just kind of keep putting roadblocks in front. Maybe pull up your Candlekeep Mysteries book real quick and roll a number real quick. Oh yeah, well, this one. We'll do that real quick.
I have to say this. So we got a comment from YouTube from Tony J.R. Thomas. Love you guys. And I love you too, random citizen. Yeah,
man.
so I think it's a great idea, and it fits really well with the Candlekeep Mysteries theme, and there's no reason not to. You can find generators on for random items and trinkets, write 1 or 2 lines of what would make it different than an item that's normally that, and see where it goes from there. I mean, opening a locket and finding a map inside would be a hell of a shock to the players compared to what you expect, which is a picture, right? Or
I mean, there's like in DMG alone, there's like a trinkets page. There's like a couple D100 tables. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. So you
Lot
can just
you can
even
do.
roll something on that, and then just be like, okay, I got a lantern. What am I gonna do to this lantern? It's blue. Why is this lantern blue?
Tantalus says, I'd investigate the items, but from a perspective of my character's personality, some of my past characters may not be interested in artifacts like that. And that's okay. There's a variety of different characters and player types, and that's why something like this is good, because you'll find out which players are interested, and you know how to target those sorts of things to those and deliver what they want and what they get fun out of. All right, so Tony's like, I am a random citizen, yeah. All right, that'll do it for our dungeon master tip. Our player tip of the podcast is don't be a dick. And you can avoid dickitude by reviewing your damn spells. Come on, people.
It's not that hard.
No. Like so many people, I mean, I know I don't know what your powers do, so I rely on you to know because I don't read the powers all the time. But if you're going no, as a spellcaster, you should always ensure your spell lists are up to date before heading off to an adventure. Beyond just understanding what your powers do, it's very easy to fall in the repetitive pattern when it comes to spells relying on a few old favorites. It is
The command spell, one of them.
it is worth your time to review all the spell options and use that you see if there's anything new that you can try. This is also a good opportunity to refamiliarize yourself with not only your favorites and knowing what they do and not finding out at 12 levels in you've been doing it wrong. But it also can put into it can expand on the stuff you normally do. Additionally, this can add a bit of surprise at the table, not only for the player, but for the DM. If you're always casting Fireball, and then all of a sudden you start using Cone of Cold, that's going to take everyone for a loop. The DM generally knows if you're going to use Fireball all the time, they might be tossing in, monsters that are a little more
fire
resistant. Yeah. But if you show up with Lightning Bolt after I've just made an army of fire-resistant characters, first of all, I'd be like, you bastard. Second, like, yay! Because I'd be happy and proud that you did that.
My players are doing something different to solve their problems.
Yeah. When you change out your spells, there's more you can do with that. If you know you're going into a Avernus, you're not going to want to take fire spells, right? If you're going into Mount Doom, you don't want to take fire spells. If you're, crawling underwater, okay, maybe you will want some of the water manipulating spells, but you get where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah. You wouldn't want just fire spells for underwater either, actually. I feel like fire really does just get snuffed out by a lot of things.
Snuffed out. I see what you did there. So review your spells. I mean, it's not hard, but it's something that gets so overlooked, and then you find out so much later. We've all been doing that wrong. Plus,
and then
it's
you
just
do it
nice, right? Yeah. Well, that and you can get more use out of it if you actually understand how it works. But the big thing is changing up your spell list. Challenge yourself. If you're usually using offensive spells, go with all utility and see force your way into using spells you don't normally do to see how you can get the most use out of them in a situation. It'll really get your cranium kind of rotating there.
Honestly, I think those are my favorite spells, are like the utility spells, because they're just so different. Every single one of them just does something, like you can bend so much with them. Rather than just, I cast Fireball, it deal big damage, I roll my dice. And you just hear the jingling of the dice, and you throw your dice out, and you're like, yes, 8 damage, I have failed.
For clarification, that's not a bad way to play, but what we're saying is you'd be surprised how much other fun you can by challenging yourself. So, also, Tan makes a really good point. if you don't know your character, you hold everyone else up, and when there's a lot of players, you don't want to do that. So.
Yeah, that's a huge thing as well. Yeah.
All right, I think that'll do it for our show today, or that'll do it for our player tip of the podcast. Don't be a dick. And you can avoid dickitude by reviewing your spells, people. Come on. All right, so before we close out today, as always, we have another piece of loot to give away, compliments of our generous sponsors.
Yep. Today, our RPG Fat Loot giveaway, Shark Radio by Fever Dream Studios, is a 4-hour heroic adventure for 14 level characters. Beat an army of Zahagan controlling a dragon turtle. Yeah. Our winner today is Caden P.
Okay, woo, congratulations! I just want to take a moment to I love this idea. Of anytime underwater, but the fact that they played on the whole Sharknado thing was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And this, because it's a higher level adventure, which is really nice. So, congratulations to Caden P. If you didn't win,
and if it didn't win, not a problem. Head over to createcampaign.com and subscribe for your chance to win.
I do want to give a quick plug. If you're a content creator and you're interested in submitting something for us as a giveaway, we do have a giveaway form you can fill out. We can add you to it and potentially give away some of your loot and hopefully get you some recognition. Right now, we've been trying to include some of these in our like some of our newsletters and stuff too. So
yeah,
because we want to remember, I told you earlier how the reason I love Candlekeep is that it included other content creators. That's one of the reasons why I made the change to this format, because it gives other opportunities for them to get in front of an audience. So all right, that'll do it for our show today. I want to say before hopefully you'll please join us on our next episode. If you're watching live right now, we will not be having one next week because it's Easter holiday. And if you're listening to this, there probably won't, and you're listening to the podcast, there probably won't be one next Wednesday. So there you go. But please do join us on our next episode when we finally do air it. We'll be discussing the awesome virtual tabletop system Foundry. Holy crap, this thing can do a lot of shit. It's not free, but man, it is heavy duty. It can do a lot. So if you enjoy the show and you want to support us, please visit critacademy.com, follow us on social media. Please leave us a review on iTunes. All the podcatchers are attached to it. If you really wanna support us, consider heading over to critacademy.com/capes and crooks and keeping an eye out for our upcoming Kickstarter. We have a group there that you can join and come see some of the content we've worked on. So I think that'll do it for our show today. I am your host, Justin.
I'm your co-host, Austin.
I'm your co-host, Ian. Thanks for listening.
Keep your blades sharp and spells prepared, heroes.